Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, the Bonsai road trip east of the Mississippi. Today, it comes to a close.
I drove 3,000 miles to see you two.
Welcome to Bonsai Acres.
Welcome everyone into the cozy plant room. I should call it the bonsai room, right? It is nice and warm and cozy in here, and the temperatures outside are finally starting to rebound just a little bit. I don't even think we're going to be in the single digits tonight for lows. That's fantastic. So today is a day where it took a long time coming, right? It was months and months of planning and 11 days on the road. Many people saw hundreds of trees, some of the best in the country trees. And if I didn't say this already, amazing people. Yeah, I saw amazing people, just phenomenal. So I took a road trip last summer to go see some trees and to meet some people because I think the YouTube community is just fabulous. And I wanted to meet some of y'all and I wanted to see some trees and get out of my neck of the woods and just get a peek at other trees. And so jumped in the car and headed east of the Mississippi. Now, we went to Chicago first. I went down to Indianapolis, hit Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Washington, D.C. for the National Arboretum to see the John Naka Forest and, of course, the Hiroshima tree. I hit Long Island, New York, Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, Littleton, Massachusetts, Bellingham, Massachusetts. And then I was at Bill Valvanis's place in Henrietta, New York. I was at Don's place at Niagara Falls, and then I was up in Canada. We had the Bonsai Zone with Nigel and the crew in Ontario. And then I finished my road trip east of the Mississippi in Michigan before I went across the big lake, not the pond, but the lake, Lake Michigan, getting over towards Milwaukee and drove back home right here. This was a fabulous trip, and what did I say throughout all the videos? Stop and smell the bonsai, or the roses, or whatever you're sightseeing. Oh my gosh, 11 days, I could have done this in 20 or 30 days. I would have loved to spend more time with the people, and I would have loved to spend more time in these amazingly beautiful places. So of course, make sure you check out the playlist with the road trip. This is the final episode of the playlist. Now, some of the people that we met along the way. I, of course, saw Tom out in Chicago of Grow and Clip Bonsai for Seniors, so it was great to see Tom. Chris and I hung out at the Chicago Botanical Gardens with the bonsai collection of over 300 trees. I met up with Stephen and his wife in Indianapolis area. At Phipps, it was Alex. Got to talk about trees with Alex, a nice young apprentice, young master bonsai curator there. A very good situation for him. And then I went out to the Nationals and eventually went to go see some of the trees at the National Arboretum, and I just couldn't stop looking at the John Naka tree. Spent some time in Steve's backyard. That was a blast. Nate, Sean, and Jesse joined me at Bonsai West. I looked at some trees with Scott. Saw Bill Valvanis in his backyard. That was phenomenal. We talked with Don over at Frontier Bonsai near Niagara Falls. And then, of course, Nigel and the crew up in Canada. And then my last stop was in Michigan, where I met Jack at Mathai and then Dean and Ted over at the Frederick Meyer Sculpture Garden and saw some great bonsai trees. And a big thanks to Arron and Alex for meeting me out there when we talked with Jack Sustick. Arron was my cameraman for both those episodes, talking with Jack, talking with Dean. Thanks for that footage, Arron. And of course, that brings me to the final show. Well, it's Arron's show. So Arron, again, thank you so much for hanging out with me for the entire day and picking up the camera. And literally, folks, it's just kind of like I gave him the camera and I really didn't say a whole lot. It's just, I might have given him a note or two. And then we went and talked bonsai with people, and he followed me along the way. So much appreciated, with very little direction. Very pleased, Arron, with the results. Thank you so much. And so we're going to check out Arron's garden. So let's do that now. We went a little bit south of Grand Rapids, Michigan. I think we were in the Kalamazoo area. Is that right? Well, he'll correct me if I'm wrong. Let's go check out Aaron's garden.
So this thing, when I moved, this is my favorite tree. This is probably my main inspiration for bonsai, and I want to take it out of the ground. It's a graft.
Is it really?
Yeah,
Oh,
look
at that bottom.
That's a different species of tree. I looked up, and you're not supposed to do that and let it grow, but I want to try and air layer it or at least take cuttings from it.
Wow.
So with this here, you can't tell because it blocks. So
Yeah.
I opened this up last year because I wanted the window. And if you can't tell, I'm air layering off structural issues in the tree.
Yeah.
Like this branch is on this side of the tree,
Right.
but is all of this foliage
Oh, okay.
on that side of the tree. And I
Oh,
thought
I see, yeah, 'cause
it
goes
would
way
make
around.
an amazing cascade, and you don't see a lot of, and honestly, it had to go one way or the other, so if it fails. And I did notice this a day ago. So sections of the branch are dying off, but sections aren't. So that's almost a good sign because it's like, hey, I don't need this. This is part of the same branch. And it's doing just fine. What's crazy is how well this does here. If you see like these, this is sun scorch.
Okay, yeah.
And that happens every year to everything on the outside. Like all of this next year will probably be dead because of how much sun it got. But this tree grows at a phenomenal rate, and I don't really do anything with it. And I just started fully working on it last year. I want to take it out of the ground. I want to take it with me when I move. Well, if you look up a tree that size, that's a Japanese maple, $1,500+ if you want it planted.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, and that's not even a bonsai. If I turn that into an imperial-sized bonsai, like, and it's already on its way, you know? So other than the Portulacaria afras, which are on both ends, these all came from Bonsai.
Okay.
I ordered them from him. These are Kishu's.
Yeah, Kishu.
Ships pretty good. I have one of my first bonsai videos is actually me unboxing these. And they do really well over here. It was a little late in the season, and they were growing roots out the bottom.
Okay.
So I kind of just stuck them in here because I did want a couple of root over rocks, and I figured.
Fantastic.
And I kind of put a gravel bed down here so that way, you know, if they shoot out the bottom, because they totally are.
Yeah, look at that. Yep.
And I don't know if you've ever seen a lot of his videos, but he grows a lot of his stuff in just straight cocoa coir.
Cocoa coir and perlite.
Yep, perlite.
Yep.
Yeah, I try to water the top of these at least once a day, if that, because I did notice that even though it's just perlite and a little bit of cocoa coir, dude, it can hold a lot of moisture. And the good thing with the perlite is aeration. And my issue was overwatering. So to compensate for that, I've pretty much just kind of did what he did, but on I guess a grander scale, because I did find, have you ever heard of Tiny Roots?
Yep.
They do make a pretty good bonsai soil that's a good price. I don't have the amount of time to spend in a garden as long as some people, and I'm more of a, if I'm working on something, I love being out here. If I'm just checking on them, I love being out here. But I like you could see, I water all these bad boys by hand. This can start taking forever. Have you ordered from the Johnstein company?
I have not.
So they'll come in a little, kind of like saran wrap, I guess, almost. I don't know, a little package, and it was just little seedlings.
Yeah.
These have twice the size that they were when I got them. I was a little worried because these are ponderosa pines. I don't know if you recognized them.
Very long needle, looks like a ponderosa.
Yep, and I was getting real worried because I didn't think it was gonna start backbudding. But then I realized I was probably overwatering them, and they're a desert tree pretty much because they're out west on the ponderosa.
Yep.
So I moved them even over further into the sun. Ezo spruce was purchased at that bonsai show I was telling you about at Frederick Meyer Gardens on the day, I can't remember the guy's name, but it was like Ezo Spruce Day.
Okay.
And that guy literally only trained Ezo Spruce his whole life. You probably could ask one of the curators about him or whatever. And this guy was selling that for $35. This mug was like this tall when I bought it.
Chop it down.
Well, yeah, I moved this tag to where I wanted to chop it down. And actually, since I've chopped it, it seems like all three of these do kind of want to be the leader. So I guess whichever one's going to do its own thing. It's going to be a twin trunk. For whatever reason, this branch, when I got it, was already growing at that angle. And I was like, well, if I chop this here, and I can somehow train the tree to where this is the main section and it's getting more energy than this, this will become this, and this will thicken up way faster than this, I guess, as long as I keep the foliage like compact. And Nigel, him and his Portulacaria afras, bro, I went out of my way to find these, and I have drastically been able to reduce, like, look how tiny some of those have gotten.
That almost looks like the Lilliput kind.
I
is it
know.
just strictly PA, or is it Lilliput?
It could be. It could be.
Smaller
It did
than the PA.
start doing these yellows, so maybe it might be getting a little too much sun. But I got so many of these now.
Yeah, you got a lot of PAs about all that.
So coolest thing from Bonsai, this was one of Eric's as well. This is the only one from him that I did something with. I split the trunk probably a month ago now, 2 months.
Yeah.
And I pulled this down to hold it there. Kind of like maybe a tree was a twin trunk and then it broke.
It broke down, yeah.
Yep, and it did exactly what I wanted it to. It's healing over right there, and probably by winter I could probably pull that off and it's not gonna move. So yeah, and I can even turn it, like it even became another twin trunk on its own. Like this one's obviously trying to grow back up. And then who knows, maybe one day if I put it in a bigger pot, plant it lower, leave this right at the surface of the soil with some sphagnum under it, maybe it'll just become a raft all on its own. Yeah. So this pot I made.
Oh, really?
I made that.
Fabulous.
I learned from a few different people. Have you ever looked up making bonsai pots out of concrete on YouTube?
I've looked at one or two real quickly, but I haven't followed it close enough to start my own
There's
yet.
there's a guy out there that just only does that, and he will walk you through pretty much making the molds, and you know, you pretty much make it like how you make a clay pot.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, honestly, well, I think I thought about it too much. It was like half finished, and then I was like, the more it sat there and the more I looked at it, I was like, well, most bonsai pots are like not perfect.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, well, does it wobble? And I'm like, a little, but.
The last one I got from Sarah Reyna, I got it because I liked that it looked a little bit asymmetrical. It wasn't like this perfectly round or oval pot.
Yeah, and then the divots, and then I wanted to do a forest since I started. So I was like, well, these were all in one freaking thing I bought for $5.
And now you have a forest.
So this is a new one, and it was an idea that I got from the bonsai show I was at. I found, there was a guy who had an entire planting and a display, and in his tiny, so his accent plant was a dead dandelion, and his display was this, and the accent plant, honestly, it became one of my favorite plantings there just because of the thought that popped in my head. I was like, dirt road, trucker, they were moving a tree. They were moving a tree, the truck broke down, something crazy happened, and the dandelion symbolizes just a dead dandelion, probably on a dirt road or whatever the case, and like, it was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. And then I showed Dan that, which is one of my roommates, and he was like, well, I got one of those. So I did that the other day. Actually, I did that mainly because I wanted you to see it. These are the redwoods.
Redwoods?
Yep, the John Steen Company. These things were about this tall when I got them this year. They've put on this much growth and then another section of growth because each time these double bifurcate. You can do it after, like, so like here, I could have trimmed it back here, but I waited till it did it again out here, and then I trimmed it back. Yeah, this is one of the only black pines that I really did anything with. I gave a couple of Eric's trees away. I actually did a little bit of work to this earlier. I noticed this was starting to swell, so I got rid of this branch. Yeah, I think I'm gonna inevitably have to get rid of this branch too because it's right here in this weird flat spot. So it was either that or
Cut that one off then.
or go like this and try to keep this curve here without straightening that too much. So now this is a branch on the outside of that curve.
There's movement though.
I don't know if do you have any of these?
No.
This is a Mugo.
I've had a couple. I've heard that people starting to repot them in the summer. That they're a summer repot tree, oddly enough.
Yeah, you know what I learned?
But I killed the two that I've had.
This thing's getting a crazy Nabari on it because I had an idea, which is you just water your tree and whichever roots get exposed, they just get exposed. This, do you know Jason Hanrahan?
Yeah.
This is his pot.
Oh yeah.
I won his giveaway.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, so you want to, I don't know if anybody watched the video, but it's the demonic pot. So what are the odds that I, on his list, was number 6, this pot was number 6, and his random number generator, which is how he chose the winner, generated the number 6.
It's your demonic pot.
Well, it's actually Jason's demonic pot. I just got a willow tree in it.
666. That's great.
So.
See, there's a story for every tree.
There really is, honestly.
What's
that?
There's a story for every tree. We learned that
today
with all the things we've seen.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't know what it is over here that's. Well, yeah. Honestly, this is like the 3rd time. Yeah. So this is a bait. Well, actually, so this fell off of a bench, and this was the top to it. Oh. So I stuck it in some water, and it rooted. There you go. I don't know what everybody's saying about willows not being good ones, but it's probably because they want it to look like a willow. So if you're going to use willow for bonsai, my suggestion is don't make it look like a willow, because it's not going to work. Yeah. Like, this is how it's going to grow until this gets about 10 feet long. Yeah. Or you reduce it to this size. You see how it's drooping? Yeah. You got to keep keep at it. I seen a lady.
People are just bending them, the branches.
Yeah, and then they wonder why all of a sudden they got an M-shaped tree. Well, it's when the new growth comes out, it's going to grow up. Yeah. Down and up. So this lady, she had a neat idea. You ever seen those things you used to grow tomatoes in? You just hang it up and it grows tomatoes. So
hanging tomato basket thing.
Right. So she took a pot and planted this willow tree in it upside down, but then didn't rotate the tree. So when she at the end of her video and she's showing it to you, it only grew up one side. So it was a neat looking tree in the end, but
Bill has an upside down tree on his property.
Yeah, the bonsai balcony guy that I was telling you about that got me into bonsai. Yeah. This was his tree. Okay. Yep. Lots of stuff. This one's actually got an interesting story. So last winter, I bought one of those bonsai kits and planted a ton, like hundreds of trees. Yeah. And like at first I was like, oh, this is gonna be cool. And then like later I started like, what if these grow? Now I feel like I got to take care of all of them. They didn't work out. So I was like, oh, screw it. This summer I needed bonsai soil. So I took all the soil and mixed it with all my other soil. Okay. And this I seen growing out of next to one of my hedges. I'm assuming it's alive because this wasn't here a few weeks ago. But I'm guessing maybe it just doesn't like being in such a confined space, which is, I guess, cool. I don't know. But anyway, so 6-7 weeks ago now, the front of this, I looked over. It used to be over there. I looked over and I seen it was all like bulged out. And I'm like, what the fudge is that? Yeah. Did it like, I thought maybe like something had tried to get to the thing. Yeah. Nope, it was this thing just decided to sprout.
Right out of that.
Yeah, and you know what this is? It's a hard thing to get as far as bonsai because they're really hard to grow from seed.
I don't know.
Wisteria.
It is a wisteria.
It is.
Wow. So I just was growing.
So I planted a bunch last year, and that seed, one of the seeds and they look like, they're bigger than a penny, smaller than a nickel, and they're thick, fat seeds. Okay. So my guess is it just took getting cold, warm all winter, and then it got put in my soil bin in there, which could have potentially been moist at some point, and then warmed up, and the humidity, whatever. This is just this year, which is insane. And basically, I just keep clipping, growing it, and awesome. I laid it down at one point when I moved it from there into this. It was laying down against the edge, and it slowly stood up on its own.
That's great. Taking root and now reaching up to the sun, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, and cool. These ones are neat because I like plants that change. So wisterias are probably always going to be one of my favorites. Have you seen wisteria at night?
Oh, they close up like the
close up,
like the Brazilian rain tree.
Yeah, yeah, kind of like this. Also, this is a new one, but acacia do that too? Acacia did too. Yeah, nice. Yeah, these I definitely highly 10 out of 10 recommend for any garden. I've never had an issue with spider mites the entire time I've been here. Yeah, they grow and propagate themselves. Like there's like 6 of them I think in this. I need to up pot. Oh, I definitely need to up pot it. It's pretty interesting when you take a tree and you move it from one position to another, and then over the course of like a week, you just watch the leaves shift position and twist the branch and stuff, and it's just natural.
if you're sure, I'll give it a new home.
Dude, I have so many projects and whatnot that I'm afraid I'm gonna start killing trees.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's what
So-
Candace of our club, and people always say, "Where's Candace and how's she doing?" And Candace just has had so many, things in the fire that she was gonna kill everything. So I ended up getting some trees. So I would love to take this off your hands, and I'll try to make it into something special. And then we'll have a story.
Yeah.
We'll have a good story. Well, thank you, sir, for the road trip help.
Yeah.
It was awesome to have a cameraman. So,
Dude.
cameraman Arron for a couple episodes.
Yeah, man. If you're ever in
Fantastic.
Michigan, I will
Yeah.
definitely take you up on that.
Definitely look you up and stay in touch for sure. That means I probably have to hit the road. So we're in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and I got to go take a ferry to Milwaukee and get on home. So you won't see this for weeks. Let's just make sure I get there.
Once again, fantastic people all across the eastern part of the country, east of the Mississippi. The Bonsai Tour comes to an end right here. Thank you all so much for the wonderful support, the comments. And if you didn't catch this, the Portrait Carry Afra dashboard camera did bite the dust. We did talk about that, I think, at one of the live streams. Someone asked about that, and that was a bummer. But so I was given so many gifts that tree, the dashboard PA, is so out of my memory banks, except for the photographs. Not a big deal. My many thanks again for everybody that supported, followed along, had me at their place, gave me some time. Everybody was so gracious with their time. Will I head to the west side of the Mississippi in 2025? That remains to be seen. More likely, I will be hitting everybody up for the YouTube Bonsai Expo. More on that in coming videos, but let's wrap this one up one more final time. As always, take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Welcome to Bonsai Acres.